Oh, hello.
Look at that. I forgot to put the loop on. Hey, and welcome to Rickcast. I am the aforementioned Rick. I was trying to get stuff ready to go, but let's just get after it. On this Monday, the 30th of December, 2024, the year is coming to an end. It practically is over. I mean, tomorrow is the 31st. And 2024 will be in the books for all of us that'll say, wow, it went by so fast. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. But new year, new some of you, if you're into that kind of thing or not, depending on how you want to look at it. But we have an interesting show. A lot, but not a lot happened this weekend. The MAGA Musk conflict continued, diverging into the so-called woke right, which I have been pushing back against time and time again. I'm glad to see other conservatives are finally joining that conversation that I've been spearheading all by my lonesome. And we'll talk about that as we talk about the Musk-MAGA conflict coming to an end, essentially. And Musk gave a little bit, and I mean a little bit, at least of a Twitter pushback, or he was able to make some kind of compromise, and so they just went on with that, and now everybody's trying to be like, oh, let's bury the hatchet and move on because we're conservatives and we can have our arguments and keep going, which I don't know. After this weekend, it further kind of makes me feel like politics really doesn't mean anything. I don't know. You can let me know. We have that taking place. Then we have President Trump, or incoming President Trump. He's not President Trump, President-elect Trump, who is not really president-elect until the Epiphany, January 6th, when they actually count the votes. But, outside of Jamie Raskins and a couple other troublemakers, I don't think we'll have a lot of problem with that. He is trying to streamline things. And I'm going to talk about the fact that he is saying, just Mike Johnson, let him be the speaker. Let's go. I think it's actually wise on his part politically. I don't really care politically, but I'll at least give you a political breakdown of that idea, so you can at least see why he did it and just kind of make things easier and just smoother and just get it done. After that, Jimmy Carter is dead. We'll go over that very quickly. Interestingly enough, he was alive for all three Nosferatu. I can't say the name of the movie. The Nosferatu, the vampire knockoff movie. He was alive for all three premieres. That's pretty impressive at 100. So we have that. And then finally, I'm going to look at this. You can say I'm a party pooper or whatever, or old man, blah, 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 blah. Will Ferrell decided to destroy any charm that the elf character had. I don't care if you like elf or not. He decided in his losing streak that he's been having as an adult male that he's just going to destroy any wonder that that character had by dressing up as him and going to a hockey game and having a cigarette in his mouth and drinking beer and just looking disheveled and really just deconstructing the hell out of the character. So little kids who probably watched the show a couple days ago would be like, Mommy, why is Buddy the Elf smoking? Well, because Will Ferrell's a loser and he can't let anything go. But that's just my tiny view on that. And so we are going to be doing that this Monday. Yeah, interesting. As we all, I guess we're bracing for the polar vortex that's coming next week. Nobody really knows, but nobody can really tell. But I guess it's a coming, which means people here in Texas won't be able to drive for 3 weeks after. I don't know about you. It should for you hardy people in the Northeast. It's not that big of a deal, right? You guys will be fine, considering that you're used to this. You're used to the miserable cold. I guess it's just cold like my heart. I would prefer cold weather to the warm weather that we're having here. But let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. First up, one story, one headline, a hot take I have for you beforehand here is from the Hollywood Reporter. making a prediction for the next year, right? Because that's what everybody's doing right now. Nobody's reporting any news. They're doing your top 10 lists, your top 20 lists. And so their most important things of the year, whatever the case may be. Once again, I will not be on tomorrow because I will be at Mass as a Catholic. The first is a holy day of obligation. My parish is doing an anticipatory Mass for the Latin Mass on Tuesday night. So that's where I'll be. That's the only reason I wouldn't have a show, guys, is I don't have any other option. So there's that. But so no show tomorrow night, show on New Year's Day. So everybody's doing predictions and best ofs and potentials and all these other things. And the Hollywood Reporter came out swinging with this one. THR predicts the next James Bond will be Josh O'Connor. Whoever the hell this guy is. If this guy's going to be James Bond, why can't I be James Bond? Seriously, man. Can we stop deconstructing intellectual property? Can we just have heroes be heroes? Can we just have our archetypes be archetypes? Why do we have to deconstruct them? No offense to Josh O'Connor. None, buddy. All right? You're an actor. You're successful. Great job. Good for you. Don't put him in a role he's set up to fail. Okay? This dude is not James Bond. I am not James Bond. Most of you, sorry, are not James Bond. Yet, Amazon, who now controls the rights because they bought MGM, they control like a majority stake in her and them and the production company that has control and has produced all the James Bond films. They're fighting because the people who produce it are looking at these people here and they're like, you're just a bunch of idiots. You people are absolutely stupid because you want this guy. Sorry, dude, your ears are too big. Your ears are just too big, man. Sorry. I know it's a mean thing to say, okay? And that doesn't mean you can't be a successful actor. Doesn't mean you can't be a successful whatever. But they ain't putting me in the role for Superman. Okay? They ain't putting it, there's certain people who are cast for certain roles. And you, my friend, are not one. You are not James Bond. You're like James Bond's villain. Or you're like Q, who comes up with all the nerdy stuff. But this dude is not James Bond. And I'm not saying it to be a jerk. I'm just saying it from a casting standpoint. This ain't the guy. This ain't the guy. And you're doing the guy a disservice. Because everybody wants Henry Cavill anyway, right? Everybody wants, oh, he's too old, blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. He's better than this dude. Heck, I would even take Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I think would actually do much better than this guy. I just think it's actually not fair to Mr. O'Connell to make him James Bond, because unless he's going to get ear reduction surgery and can we get rid of the broccoli hair too? Is that something we can do in 2025? Is we can get rid of the broccoli haircut, and just actually go back to normal haircuts? Not whatever the hell this thing is. It's gross and I hate it. But yes, that's obviously it's the hottest take that I could give you is that the Hollywood Reporter, which is obviously that's a trade. It works for the studios. It floats this stuff out there to see what the reaction would be. This is a trial balloon. And I feel terrible because this dude is going to get ripped by, I'm like the fat guy who watches the Olympics. And when the athlete misses, when the gymnast misses a flip, I'm like, pathetic, as I shove more chips into my face. I feel bad as a man who is, I'm not ugly, but what does little Nicky say? Adam Sandler say, little Nicky? I'm no George Clooney, but I think we can all agree this dude's not James Bond. He's just not. And it's not fair to him because all you're doing is setting this dude up for failure by putting him there. But that's our first story of our hot take. And that's my hot take that I needed to get in there, is that poor guy should not even be considered for the role of James Bond because he's just, it's okay to say, like, you're not James Bond, buddy. You're not. You're really not. And then I'm sorry to make it seem like I'm trying to be anything other, but no, it's just not there. All right, let's get to our first story of the day. And that is the only story. And I guess we'd have to thank Elon Musk for doing this. And that was the civil war between, or the MAGA war that popped up during this whole thing. And it's very interesting that I can give you a recap, the current status here. And that was Musk has given up the lower pay for H-1B. This is what happened over the weekend. In case you were off or, have a life and weren't on Twitter all weekend, like some of us. He's given up the lower pay for H-1Bs, which I'll show in a second. Effectively castrates the issue and makes it a hollow issue for tech bros. They will not get the wage slaves. Vivek shot his own political chances down. Even DeSantis looks better off than him in 2028. Trump seems to have disciplined the tech bros and brought them into heel. The king is on his throne. I don't know who this guy is, but, he's got a good handle on this. Gropers. I don't even know what they are. Grapers. They're the Nick Fuentes people. Look even more ridiculous. Mainstream media was completely neutered in this debate. They weren't even in the discussion, and the voting has been going through H-1B records and informed just how corrupt it is, effectively dooming it. So it's not a bad. That's actually a very good summary, which is why I'm using it, of what happened. The whole concept being, listen, the fight between Musk and MAGA centric is over. And I'll show you the tweet that Musk kind of threw out there. I think it was Sunday afternoon, which kind of when everybody be like, all right, we're done. This thing's over. You even had a lot of people on the right say, okay, Musk has waved the flag. He's made some kind of olive branch to y'all. He's put it out there. He didn't, because people of his ilk, of his status, they don't say they're sorry. They don't apologize. They kind of just throw something out there and expect everybody to kind of just go along with it. Be like, oh, okay, well, since you did it, what you did, you put a compromise out there and see how they go, which is fine. He put the compromise out there. A lot of people are saying Trump said, listen, dude, just calm it down, because he was getting ridiculous to the point where, and this people on the right, the conservative grifting class really is disappointing in this. A lot of guys flipped back and forth, but Elon Musk essentially told the entire right at one point during an unhinged rant to go blank themselves. Now I can't show it because I don't want to, because it's got curse words in it, unless I can find I have a censored version that I can send it to myself. It'll take a second. So Musk sends this in this unhinged rant, and everybody's like, bro, what are you doing? That in conjunction with the censorship that is still there. He hasn't said anything about that, but we know now for a fact that there is effective shadow banning taking place on this platform. If you are blocked by bigger accounts, if you are blocked by more important, let's just say it as it is. If you're blocked by more important accounts, he calls them credible and verified, which just means the ones that are important. Somebody like the idiot Ian Miles Strong, who's finally being discovered. I think Ian will regret the day that he crossed paths with Candace Owens. And so we'll see how that works for him. But if you get blocked by enough people, if you get muted by enough people, you will effectively be shadow banned, and you will not have any say in the political process anymore. And so good luck. And now he said, oh, well, it changes if you get enough retweets and likes and all these other kinds of things, which is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to be like, oh, if you get enough likes and shares and retweets and so forth, then it'll unban it, which is ridiculous. And I said that before only because of this. The amount that you would actually have to get, the amount of retweets, the amount of likes or any of these other things that you would actually have to get in order to make it back, you're essentially done. So this is what Elon decided to put out to the masses. And let me give you a big old, this was on Sunday. And that's when everybody was like, bro, what? And of course, this was after back and forth with people on Twitter who kept going into the H-1B. By the way, T-Rex Arms, big shout out to you, buddy. he confidently was like, I don't have any H-1B guys, suckers. And then people are like, you got 4 positions on the H-1Bs. Like, oh, well, that's when I helped the guy from Australia. You guys are jerks. Can't stand the dude. Sorry. Okay. Let me go on record. You know what? He's never done anything to me. He just annoys me. That's all. But, so there's that. But people kept showing, hey, look at this H-1B stuff, Elon. You have all, $70,000 for people living in Austin. That's barely above the poverty line. And so he fired off this gem of a tweet, I'll call it, on Sunday. The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of the H-1Bs. Take a big step back and blank yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue with the likes which you cannot possibly comprehend, which is a little nuts when you realize this guy's a billionaire and he's getting honestly triggered by nobodies, by anonymous accounts, to the point where if you question the H-1Bs, he stripped you of your check mark that you paid for, although it's terms of service or private platform, whatever, and put people, pretty much ban them into oblivion, right? Ban them into oblivion. Now you had like Steve Bannon, and I'm not a big fan of this guy either, Jack Posobiec, but those guys actually did step up and question Musk and push back. So you got to give them credit where credit is due. And you had some people on the right, and this was absolutely pathetic. They said, guys, this is just a quote. He's doing the Les Grossman quote from Tropic Thunder. Everybody get a grip. Hold up. That's a cope. That's a huge cope, because as a person that uses humor poorly to get points across, I will use movie quotes to get a point across. You got to believe a man when he tells you to step back and go blank yourself. You shouldn't be like, oh, he's just kidding. No, that's a billionaire telling you that he's going to, telling you to go blank yourself, and that he's going to go to war for cheap labor. So just understand, that was the height of this entire thing. Now, did it last that long? Did it last that way? No, because he fired this off on, I think that was Sunday. Yeah, that was or Saturday, because there's the 30th, which means that would be the 28th, which was Saturday. Let me give you this one. The reason, nope, wrong one. Sorry. So that was the one, and everybody went, you got to be kidding me. This is absolutely ridiculous that you're doing this. But then he came back and said the following: it's easily fixed by raising the minimum salary significantly and adding a yearly cost to maintain the H-1Bs, making it materially more expensive to hire from overseas than domestically. I've been very clear that the program is broken and needs major reform. This was after Robert Sterling said a bunch of other stuff. So this was the tweet. Everybody said, okay, you can put the guns away. Everybody can put everything down. Elon's, he's called it off. He says that the thing is broken and it needs to be reformed, and we'll put extra costs on it and this, that, and the other thing. My question is, did it have to? And people are like, well, why did everybody have to tweet at Elon? Why did you have to go woke right? Which woke right is something that the fat moron, and I hope somebody clips this and puts it out there, the fat moron named James Lindsay, and that's all he is. He's a disaffected liberal. He's a liberal that couldn't cut it in academia. So what he decided to do was come to the right when everybody was, like the Chernovics and all these other guys were coming over in 2016, and the right, because we're such losers over here, and we're like, oh, people like us now because of Donald Trump. Yeah, you can come over. Yeah, you. Now, some have been good, like a Scott Pressler. He's come over, done great things. Most aren't. Most have shifted the Overton window from conservative to moderate. And that helped it. Don't get it twisted. Donald Trump has done that as well, because he's not a Republican. He's not a conservative. He's a New York liberal. He's a 90s liberal. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm fine. I voted for the guy 3 times. But this idea that we're woke right now because we decided to say, listen, the H-1B visa program is bad. It's undercutting American workers. It's bringing in cheap labor. People aren't able to do the jobs that they need to support families. And people go, oh, well, the HB1 visas are the top 1%. you had some channels trying to straddle the line. They're like, we don't let China import. China is not importing anybody. They are not importing people from India. China and India are literally at war on their border so much that they have rocks and bats that they fight each other with every single day. Not every single day, but a lot of the times. You can Google border between India and China. They ain't buddies, and they ain't importing anybody. They're not bringing in Indian immigrants or Indian labor to work on their code. Of course, there's 400 gazillion people in China, so that's not really that big of a deal. But some people are like, don't let the Chinese, like Michaela Peterson. Who in the hell is Michaela Peterson? Darling, somebody click this out and send it to you. The only thing you bring to the table is your dad's last name. You bring nothing of substance. Please do us all a favor and be quiet, because you don't bring anything here. You're going to talk about woke right, importing from China. You literally do not know what the hell you're talking about. Okay? Just as much as any other idiot like myself on this platform is talking, but at least we have a concept. We understand that the Chinese are not importing Indian labor. We understand that the H-1B visas, if you look through them to places like T-Rex Arms and Tesla and everywhere else, trucking companies, pickleball coaches, they're all being brought in at these lower rates to undercut American workers, and through the process of DEI is now favoring these foreign workers. But if you bring it up, if I bring it up and we say, listen, the H-1B visa cannot be an uncapped program, then this is another stupid argument that people on the right who are trying to be liked by everybody, and when you try to be liked by everybody, you can't be liked by anybody. We're saying, you guys are arguing over 85,000 people. I can't believe you're actually arguing over that. This is such a ridiculous thing. We need to argue over illegal immigration. I'm sorry, you think we're stupid enough that we can't do both at the same time? That we can't figure out how to do both? The 85,000 doesn't count the chain migration that comes from these people. But you guys are so desperate to be liked. You're so desperate to be approved. You're so desperate for the Elon bucks and to be on Timcast and all these other places that you just cannot make anybody mad. No, you are ducking the issue. And the same thing with Riley Gaines and the others that jumped on Vivek's thing and said, hey, listen, guys, you need to fix the culture and you need to fix the schools. Hey, genius, why don't you take a step back here for a second? Let's say first of all, two things. First of all, if the culture's so bad and our education system sucks so much, why do people come from other countries like Vietnam and India to get trained at American schools? First one, that makes you sound like an idiot. Second one, let's say you do change the quote unquote culture and everything's great and we have the finest performing students and everything. You think if the H-1B visa program still exists, they're going to hire you when you are more expensive? No, they're going to undercut you and bring in foreign labor that's cheaper. That's the point. But you dummies, you grifters, you people who are great in your one little space, but you're trying to spread out to different areas and you're not very intelligent by it, try to be all nice and stay on the good side of the tech bros and say, well, guys, you got to change the schools. If you do and you don't address the H-1B visa program, you're back to square one. As you can see, I'm a little fired up about it because I don't want to see my fellow American, black, brown, Hispanic, whatever, my fellow Americans, members of this union who work hard, who do the right thing, get screwed over for cheap labor. It's the illegal immigrant argument. It's just legalized here. Now, Trump came out over the weekend. I love H-1B. What do you think Trump's going to say? What do you think a billionaire is going to say? One, of course, he has guys on H-1B visas on his properties. That just makes fiscal sense for him, just like it makes fiscal sense for Elon and all these other guys while it exists, which is why people are saying you have to get rid of it. And secondly, he's not going to go against Elon Musk, who literally funded a PAC to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars to get him elected. Hey, thank you. We're a rogue outfit over here, man. Many may not watch, but the ones who do, you'll get it. But the whole thing is with all that, if you said any of the things that I just said in the last couple minutes, James Lindsay's going to waddle up and say, you're a woke right. You can't believe you're a member of the woke right. Woke right doesn't exist. Let me get on. The woke right does not exist. It is made up by liberals who are shifting the Overton window of conservatism to make it moderate. And idiots like James Lindsay who promote it, and anybody, your favorite influencer who repeats it is stupid and is probably not your friend and probably would backstab you if the tech bros told them to. If they told them to. And so that was the thing that really just came up. There was this whole thing. Obviously, this came down, and then Elon said, oh, we'll cap it. How about that? We'll make it more expensive. We'll blah, 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 blah. You know what, folks? Take the win where you can get it. I mean, not that it even matters in this. I'm a speck. I'm a 1 or a 0 in the algorithm. I don't care. I'm muted Elon Musk on my this timeline that you're seeing the movie, the show on completely. I don't, I used to think Elon was fun. He was funny. I thought, Tesla was kind of neat and all this other. The only thing I would actually consider is Starlink because I think it's a valuable service, but we were like, hey, make the X phone and do all this other cool stuff. Elon, dude, I could literally give a rat's behind about the guy now. And the crappy thing is his attitude, his mindset is going to dominate Texas politics for the next 20, 30 years because he's moved Tesla, the boring company, the Neurochip, Neuralink, and SpaceX are all in Texas now. So he's going to have a much larger voice than I'm going to have inside the political spectrum, which is not great. So that's what happened over the weekend. You had this big eruption, which I kind of just mimicked. And now Elon put the flag up. Everybody's just moving on. I said it. I said it over the weekend. I'm not going to tweet about this forever. So my final position is this. H-1B visas are big government and big corporations working together to undercut the American worker. Never get that twisted. It's not about the top 1%. That's the 0-1 visa, the O-1 visa. That's the best, the brightest, the brilliant. That's that. H-1Bs are literally just foreign workers being inputted. Student visas, same thing. Student visas are just as bad. Right? Menendez, you're right. I mean, the guy who wants to put a chip in your brain, he's a bad guy. What a crazy thought. So you were better than I was. So my first thought is H-1B visas, big government, big corporations working together to undercut the American worker. Also, it reveals that anybody who has made it, Trump, Musk, your favorite influencers now, Tim Pool, those guys who don't have to really worry about fighting it out, who are set. I mean, they work, obviously, but they're not as much of a position like, people like myself who are firing off streams right now, happily, by the way, every night except tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central Time. They don't care about you. Remember this in the midterms. Remember this next time. I care about the American worker. Get rid of the H-1B visa program. I don't think so. Okay. But the war is over. Elon put out, he didn't put up a white flag, but he put up a compromise. And MAGA was very quick to be like, yep, we'll take it. We'll take it. Elon's our guy again. Yay! Don't be mean to Elon. Whatever. Be mean to Elon. I don't give a crap. I mean, you're going to get banned and you're going to get shadow banned and removed from the platform. So, be careful about that. But in the end, you use your own judgment on that. Moving on to the next story of the day. That is coming to us from Truth Social. Truth Social, where Donald Trump has decided to endorse Little Mike Johnson. Now, we'll read this in a second. I'll try to read for it right now. Yeah, I know. Hey, Menendez. Right? H-1B visas are no good. Social media is no good. Trump saying H-1B visas are great. Complete and total boo. It is. But the fact that there was any compromise is something you have to give them. You have to be like, all right, there was a little bit of compromise and they didn't just bury us. So you got to give them that much at least. It's not a huge victory, but it's a tiny, it's a little victory. But Trump. So let's get to this second story. We're only on story 2 here on Rickcast. Thank you for hanging out. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell if you're watching on the X machine. Hit that follow button and retweet for a larger sample size. So Donald Trump has endorsed Mike Johnson, and he decided to go off a huge I'm not going to read any of this because I feel like I guess he has like 700 characters on this on Truth Social. By the way, I'm banned from Truth Social. I don't even know what I did. Like I can't even get to the website. I'm blocked. I don't know. Oh, well, anyway, he says the American people need immediate relief all the way down here, folks. All the way down here. The American people need immediate relief from all the destructive policies of the last administration. Speaker Mike Johnson is a good, hardworking, religious man. He will do the right thing, and we will continue to win. Mike is my complete and total support. MAGA. And of course, that was met with people from all over Congress saying how great Mike Johnson is as well.
There's nobody more honest that I've ever dealt with in Washington. I mean, he is a fine Christian man. He's not a religious man. He's a Christian man, and he doesn't cheat on his wife. And I find that very appealing in Washington, D.C.
Okay, well, I guess that's how far the bar is on this point. My thoughts, if you care. If you like what I say, hit the thumbs up or retweet or Rumble or whatever they do on Rumble. If you don't, leave me a comment and tell me why I'm stupid. Would be happy to read it. Trump has as much as I think Phil Lamonti's kind of all over the place, he has said one thing that's correct. Trump has 180 days to get his stuff done. He's got a little less than a year to get things done. Because then you hit midterms. Once you hit midterms, everybody's, the cockroaches will run for their own districts and try to save their own skin. It's already that was one reason why Trump wanted the debt ceiling pushed outside of his term, kick it down the can to, the next to, whoever would be running in 2028, because he didn't want to have the fight and have the government shut down and all these other things. So from his perspective, that's why he wanted to do it. But the idea of Mike Johnson is simple. He does not want to waste time having a confirmation fight. He does not want to waste time with his appointments and with things being settled to have people arguing about Mike Johnson. He already dealt with this, or we already saw it with, Speaker McCarthy and all the nonsense. They got rid of McCarthy and they didn't have a backup plan. And that's how he ended up with Mike Johnson, because everybody was like, hey, he's kind of likable. He's a likable dude. The only issue is he's never been in a leadership position, so he didn't know how anything worked. Like anything else in politics, very rarely do you just hop into a position. You get groomed through, you're the minority, and then you're the whip, or you're the minority leader, the whip, blah, 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 blah. You work these positions for a while, so that way when you get in it, you're ready to go. Johnson, they were like, hey, guess what? You've been here for a while. You get to be the speaker. And he goes, okay. And yeah, he may have had a great record before, but now he's in a position that he does not know how to negotiate. And he's going head to head with Hakeem Jeffries, who's been there for a while. And that guy is a snake. He is a viper if you ever saw one. And he's just been, he's been playing him like a fiddle, obviously. So that's kind of how that goes. But the idea of putting in, just get Johnson, reelect him as speaker, move on, and let's just get to work. It's a business move. He may not be, he's not, he is, he's our greatest ally's choice. And he's a good Christian man for our greatest ally. But if you're looking at it from a business way, or how you would do things business wise, it's just easier. Get him in. Let's just move on and let's get this thing going, because there's no reason, there's no fight to who you're going to put in there. Is a fight for who? Who's going to be the choice? Oh, how about Thomas Massie? Thomas Massie's not going to be the speaker, man. As much Rand Paul, or let's dig up Ron Paul and throw him back out there. You guys sound like John Adams when during his term as president. He's like, let's get Washington to fight on the front lines. They're like, Washington's 75. He can't do it anymore. And the problem is there's only like 15 to me, I think Hannah Claire Brimlow was saying this earlier. There's only like 15 to 20 people that we know in the Twitter sphere or in social media or go on the news shows. So public opinion is like, oh, Massey, oh, Boebert, oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because those are the only ones we see. There's probably other ones that are good. Not that there's any good politician, by the way, but we don't know. So when we demand these fights, they're like, we're going to put Speaker John. We're going to get this guy, Mike Johnson. People are like, who? I've never heard of Mike Johnson. Well, there he is. He's your guy now. Same thing here. Why fight to get somebody else that you don't know? I'm not putting that one up. I do, Brian, but I'm not putting that one up. If you want to know what Brian's saying, jump it in the YouTube chat and you can see what he's saying. But it's a smart play by Trump. Trump doesn't want to waste time because he's only got 180 days before midterms, and then after that, he's lame duck. He's a lame duck, and he can't really do much because everybody's going to be after. They're going to, JD Vance is going to be running for president at that point. He's going to be getting ready for the primaries. Then you're going to have the primary fight. You're going to have everybody because they're going to start running in 26. They're going to start running in 2027. No, 20. I mean, last time in 2019, they started running in 2019. Candidates were, what was it? Elizabeth Warren. I think she announced in January 2019. Chief Warren. She was after it, and they were all, I think Kamala was one of the first ones that go after it too. They're going to do the same thing, especially since he's a lame duck, and the thing's going to be open. So there's going to be a huge primary, and that'll start in 2026, and they'll just go through it, and we'll be through this whole thing all over again. So enjoy the next year, because it's not going to be much else besides that. So there is that. Here on Rickcast, thank you for hanging out with me now. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all the fun things to help the show continue to supposedly grow, and I think it is growing amazingly. And I thank every single one of you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Once again, no live show tomorrow. I'm going to be at Mass for the new year. It's the first is a holy day of obligation for Catholics. My church, the church I go to, does anticipatory Latin masses, so I will be going to that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to this next story of the day. Jimmy Carter. I mean, like him or hate him, the guy made it to 100. So good for you. Former President Jimmy Carter dies at 100. Oldest president in U.S. history. That's about as much as you can say in the positive for him. But anyway, this is by Joel Pollack of Breitbart.com. Former President James Earl Jimmy Carter has passed away at the age of 100. He served only one term from 77 to 81 and was defeated by Ronald Reagan, yet remained active in politics and in diplomatic life. The 39th president lived longer than any other U.S. president. His death was announced Sunday by his son, James E. Chip Carter III, who had to be in his, 70s? I don't even know how old that guy was, but he had to be up there. Carter was born in Plains, Georgia, attended the United States Naval Academy, served as an officer on nuclear submarines. He later returned home to run the peanut farm. And that was his big thing when he ran. I'm just a peanut farmer. He rose through the ranks of the Democratic Party at a time when the South was undergoing profound changes with the end of racial segregation system known as Jim Crow. He was elected the governor of Georgia in 1970. Carter was considered a long shot for the Democratic presidential nomination in 76, but his evangelical faith and his humble origins provided a wholesome antidote to the cloak and dagger politics of the Watergate era. The Carter presidency was the first Democratic presidency since Lyndon Johnson in 1968. Of course, when you look into the deep state and how they nuked Nixon and set up something for like an outsider like Jimmy Carter, doesn't really shock you. Carter could not manage the persistent problems of inflation, which hounded the U.S. economy through his term. How shocking. A Democrat couldn't handle inflation. Just unbelievable. Although he deregulated key industries, the full impact of these reforms would not be felt until much later. In foreign policy, Carter brokered the Camp David Accords in 1978 between Israel and Egypt, for which he later received a Nobel Peace Prize, him and Obama, after Obama drone striked 5 more people. He boycotted the 80 Olympics in Moscow over the invasion of Afghanistan, which was great because Rocky III came out although Rocky III came out after the Soviets left Afghanistan. Funny story about that. But he stumbled badly into the Iran hostage crisis of 79-80. Carter's perceived weakness in the face of Iranian terrorism compounded the doubts about his meek approach to foreign policy, which stressed diplomacy to a fault. Now, I will say this. It's a little, one thing I can't stand is I cannot stand you guys in the chat are being mean. You guys are being frisky. Is when we talk about Iran before the Islamic Revolution, and this is all we can, I guess, export. It's always like girls in bikinis and fast food. It's like, look at Iran before when Carter was president. It's just girls in scantily clad outfits and guys eating like cheeseburgers. It's like, is this? I mean, obviously it's better than Islam, but it's like, is this really something we should be promoting and exporting? Apparently, yes. That's all we have to offer. His approach was typified by what became known as a malaise speech in 1979, which encouraged the nation to consume less. His dour demeanor and his zeal for continued sacrifices caused voters to turn away. Reagan defeated Carter in 1980 by hammering the incumbent Democrat on the state of the economy, by promoting a foreign policy of peace through strength, and by offering a more optimistic outlook on America. Carter accepted his defeat but remained active in public life, at times in controversial ways. In 1994, he inserted himself into the tense standoff between the U.S. and North Korea, foiling efforts to isolate the Kim regime, which I'm not going to say negatively because it's not like those things did. They tried to isolate North Korea, and North Korea had allies in China and Russia, so they still came up with nukes. In 2006, Carter caused outrage by comparing Israel to apartheid South Africa in a book that critics say appeared to justify terror. Carter refused to debate then Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz over the book. Carter also lent weight to the false Russian collusion conspiracies, claiming Trump didn't actually win the election. The 39th president was regarded more fondly for his charitable work, including his efforts on behalf of Habitat for Humanity with his own Carter Center. He also continued to teach Sunday school at his local church. He survived a bout of skin cancer, which in 2015 had spread to his liver and brain. He had ill health in recent days, and his family announced February 18th he had been elected to receive hospice at home. He's preceded in death by his wife, former First Lady Rosalind Carter. He is mourned and so forth. So, eternal rest, grant unto him, O Lord, and the perpetual light shine upon him. May he rest in peace. Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's see here. We got, Jimmy Carter was probably he's an example of a guy who was a great governor that just got chewed up in the Washington machine. Not everybody, we just have to remember that. I will try. Menendez, you do that for me. You pray for me and my family as well. I pray for you guys. You pray for me. That's how we do it. We go back and forth on that always. So how do you deal with the Washington machine? Most don't. And you could say Trump really didn't do too well in his first round. So we'll see how he does in this one, because the deep state is the deep state and it runs it. What do they call it? The blob. Some people call it the swamp. People in DC call it the blob. It just consumes everything. And its ever desire to maintain itself and to continue to be an existing, it's an organism. It's a live organism. It really is. So it just continues to move on. All right. Last story of the day. We're going to end on a little bit of a cultural story here from Breitbart.com again. Sorry, guys. I just think Breitbart is probably one of the easiest places to find stuff. If you have a problem with that, don't care. So Will Ferrell dresses as his elf character at NHL game. If you think it is that bad, watch this. Ha ha ha. Look, buddy's a loser now. Look, he's smoking and drinking. Ha 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 ha. Yay. Look at him drink. Oh, he's like one of us. All right. Time for me to get on my soapbox, which makes me actually like a normal person's height. So buckle on in. This is just another way Hollywood can deconstruct and destroy anything that's good. You could say that one of the few things that Will Ferrell did in his quote unquote career that was any good was this film, Elf. It is a story about a soul, Buddy the Elf's soul, which is pure of heart, doesn't see anything bad, and embodies the supposed spirit of Christmas. And everybody, some people love it, some people hate it. I get it, that's fine. But it's one of the few Christmas movies that has come out lately that is actually not jaded. It doesn't deconstruct characters, doesn't make, make Christmas about consumerism or any of these other kinds of things that just really, it has this negative, jaded outlook that we have in life. Right now in America, in these United States, we have this jaded, negative outlook, this downer outlook on everything, really since the year 2000. After 9/11 and so forth, we've been on this kind of just not destructive, but this very self-doubting, this very negative outlook. I guess jaded is the best word I can use for it. Path. And Elf was one of those few movies that came out, and it was just so light, and it's so quotable, and it's fun. My wife and I, this time of year, bye, buddy. I hope you find your dad. That's one of our favorite quotes to do. And there's so many other great quotes. I got a full 40 minutes. I'm sure all you parents can love that quote. Do you guys get a good night's sleep? Yeah, I got a full 40 minutes. And here's my thing. There's a lot of kids that probably watched Elf over the holiday. And there probably were a lot of kids that were at this NHL game. And there were a lot of kids that probably were so young and they looked up at their dads and said, or moms, hey, why is Buddy smoking? Why is he sad? He's always so happy in the movie. And parents have to now look in their kid and say, Buddy's not feeling good or something like that. They have to do this because Will Ferrell is such a loser. Will Ferrell is so much just poisoned with hate and the Hollywood machine and everything that drags him down that he had to destroy the one good thing that he's put out. He had to destroy it. Now, I know some of you will be like, Rick, I think you're taking it too far out of line. Whatever, dude. I'm sure you didn't have to be one of those parents that had to explain to his kid why Buddy's smoking a cigarette at the game. And it's all part of this angry, he's salty because Trump won. Guess what, buddy? That doesn't mean you destroy one of the few good things you actually had out there. One of the few good things you've done in life. Now, you and I, if it was on like Saturday Night Live and he came out like that, he was like, oh, times have been rough. You know what? That's okay because, the young kids that actually really like the movie, they're probably not going to see it until years later. And you and I can be like, oh, man, I get it, buddy. That's been rough days, rough times, right? Christmas has been rough on everybody. But the fact he did it in a public place, in public view, it's just, I think it's gross. And I think it's pathetic. And I don't even have kids. I don't even imagine the fact that he's going to be out there spitting on, some families, probably the movie that families are gathering around and watching is Elf. And now they got to be like, yeah, well, now my kid's not going to have that. And of course, eventually kids grow out of these things. Nobody's sitting here trying to say that, but I'm sure you parents know this more than I am. Any bit of innocence that you can keep in your kids, any bit of innocence that you can like protect and hold on to and shelter your kids with and just hold on to it for as long as possible. You don't want an idiot and a moron like this to ruin it. And that's why I find this to be just absolutely pathetic more than anything else. And I guess that's another reason why, you shouldn't watch movies, right? You shouldn't give Hollywood the time of day because they just disappoint you, right? They just disappoint you. It's another example of it. All right, folks, that's going to be it for this episode of Rickcast. I am Rick, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Do me a favor, if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on the Rumble machine, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, share the program with as many people as you can to get this program out to as many as possible. Because on this account, I have been blocked by James Lindsay, by Jack Bosibic, by a bunch of other people. I've been muted by a bunch of people. So this account, obviously, we're not getting any kind of numbers. And that's fine. If you guys just retweet it, that'll help me out there. And of course on YouTube as well. I will see you guys on Wednesday, on New Year's Day. Once again, I will not be live tomorrow night because I will be at Mass. I will be praying for you guys. Hopefully, for my fellow Catholics, pray for me when you go to Mass, whenever that is, either tomorrow night or on Thursday or on Wednesday. So I will talk to y'all then. God bless. And until he's free Dexter Taylor.
This